You are not too sensitive. You are just running a high-resolution system in a world designed for low resolution. And the real problem is not how much you feel. It is how your environment keeps overwhelming what you feel. Most people will tell you to toughen up, to stop overthinking, to be less emotional, as if the solution is to shrink yourself until you fit into the noise. But if that were true, you would feel better by now. Instead, you feel tired in a way that sleep does not fix. You feel drained without knowing exactly why, like your energy is being used somewhere you cannot see. And here is the part that does not make sense at first. The more you try to ignore it, the worse it gets. Because what if your sensitivity is not the weakness? What if it is a system that is simply overloaded? And what if the reason you feel stuck is not because you lack discipline, but because you have been trying to fix the wrong thing all along? You wake up and nothing is wrong, but something already feels slightly off, not heavy enough to notice, just a quiet layer in the background. You reach for your phone, a few notifications, a message, maybe some news, nothing dramatic. But your mind starts moving before your body does. You go into your day like everyone else. Work, tasks, conversations, switching between things, responding quickly, trying to keep up. On the surface it looks normal, but underneath, your system is doing something different. It is not just seeing and hearing. It is processing, storing, connecting. Every small detail leaves a trace. The tone in someone's voice, the tension in a room, the subtle pressure of unfinished tasks. You do not just experience the moment, you carry it forward. So by the time it is midday, your mind is not just dealing with now, it is dealing with everything from the morning that has not fully settled. This is where the friction starts. You try to focus, but your attention feels fragmented. You open one tab, then another, not because you lack discipline, but because your brain is searching for relief from the overload. You say yes to things you are unsure about, not because you want to, but because in that moment it feels easier than handling the emotional weight of saying no. And slowly, without noticing, your energy drains, not in one big moment, but in small, continuous leaks. By the afternoon, you feel tired in a way that does not match what you have done. Like your system has been running in the background at full capacity the entire time, and then the usual conclusion appears. You think you are inconsistent. You think you need more discipline, a better routine, more motivation. So you try again. New plan, new structure, more effort, but the pattern repeats because the issue was never effort. It was that your environment keeps feeding your system more than it can naturally filter. And no amount of pushing can fix a system that is constantly overloaded. At some point, usually after repeating the same cycle too many times, something shifts, not dramatically, just a quiet realization. You notice that the problem is not that you cannot handle life. It is that you have been handling too much at once without noticing. You stop asking how to be more disciplined and start asking a different question. What exactly is taking my energy? Not in a general sense, but specifically, moment by moment, you begin to see patterns that were always there. Certain environments make you tense without a clear reason. Certain conversations linger longer than they should. Certain types of noise follow you even after they are gone, and then something else becomes clear. There are also things that restore you, small ones, almost easy to ignore. A quiet space, natural light, a slower pace. A conversation that does not demand anything from you. At first they feel insignificant, but when you pay attention, you realize they are not optional. They are signals your system has been waiting for. This is where the perspective changes. You are not someone who lacks focus. You are someone whose input has never been managed properly. Your energy is not random. It is a response to everything you allow into your environment. And once you see that, the goal is no longer to push harder. It becomes something more precise, to reduce what drains you and to intentionally increase what restores you. Not perfectly, not all at once, but enough to change the direction. Because the moment you understand that your system is reacting exactly as it was designed to, you stop fighting yourself and start redesigning what surrounds you. once you stop trying. To fix yourself, the next step becomes simpler. You build a system that works with your sensitivity instead of against it. Not complicated, just 3 parts: reduce, restore, and protect. First, reduce unnecessary input. You do not need to eliminate everything. Just remove the obvious pressure points: constant notifications, chaotic noise, environments that force your attention to split. If you cannot leave them, you lower their intensity. Headphones are not a preference. They are a filter. Silence is not avoidance. It is recovery space. You are not escaping the world. You are adjusting the volume so your system can function. Second, restore your baseline on purpose. Most people wait until they are exhausted to rest. That is already too late. Your system needs small resets before it crashes. Find a simple space where nothing is demanded from you. A quiet corner, a short walk. Even a few minutes alone. No scrolling, no input. Just let your system slow down. Think of it as returning to neutral. And then add small sources of positive input. Soft light, calm sound, comfortable textures. These are not luxuries. They are signals that tell your nervous system it is safe to relax. Without them, you stay in a low-level alert state all day. Third, protect your energy with a pause. This is where most of your energy is lost. Not in work, but in decisions made too quickly. When someone asks for your time, your default answer becomes simple: let me check and get back to you. This creates distance between the request and your response. In that space, you can actually evaluate: do I have the capacity for this? Or am I reacting to avoid discomfort? That pause is small, but it changes everything, because it replaces automatic behavior with intentional choice. And over time, these small adjustments do something important. They lower the background noise in your life, so your energy is no longer constantly drained before you even begin. If you stay with this system, nothing dramatic happens in the first few days. There is no sudden breakthrough, no spike of motivation, but something quieter begins to change. You notice that your days feel less heavy, not because you are doing less, but because you are carrying less invisible weight. Your focus lasts a little longer, not forced, just more stable, like your mind is no longer being pulled in multiple directions at once. You stop reaching that familiar point in the afternoon where everything feels like too much, not because the world became easier, but because you stop letting everything reach you at full intensity. You begin to recover faster. A short break actually resets you. A quiet moment actually works because your system is no longer pushed past its limit all day. And slowly, your decisions start to change. You become more selective, not in a dramatic way, just slightly more aware of what drains you and what supports you. You say no a little earlier. You step away a little sooner. You give yourself space before things build up. These are small shifts, but they compound. Weeks later, you realize you feel less reactive. Months later, you notice you are more consistent, not because you became more disciplined, but because your system finally has the conditions to sustain effort. And that is where the real advantage appears. You are not pushing harder than everyone else. You are simply wasting less energy. And over time, that difference becomes everything. You do not need to become a different person to function better. You do not need to feel less, think less, or force yourself into a system that was never designed for you. What you needed was clarity. Clarity about what drains you. Clarity about what restores you. And the willingness to build around that. Because the problem was never your sensitivity. It was the absence of structure to support it. And once you start adjusting your environment, even in small ways, something important happens. You stop fighting yourself. You start working with yourself. If this feels familiar, if you have been stuck in that quiet cycle of overload and self-blame, comment system, just one word. And if this way of thinking helps you see things more clearly, subscribe. Each week we refine one part of the system, slowly, practically, without forcing change too fast. Because real progress is not built on intensity. It is built on alignment, one small decision at a time.